Who's next?
Hey, Andy, Joe, and Big Al. Thanks for taking my call. This is Fish Sean Wu from Winter Springs, Florida. And I had a question about traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, and 401ks, and why it is not a good idea to leave your trust as a beneficiary. I recently set up a trust, and before listening to you guys, I had the trust as a beneficiary. I was hoping you guys could explain why this is a bad idea. Now for the important part. I drive a 2013 Toyota Tundra pickup truck that has never met a gas station it does not like. I don't have any four-legged friends, or three-legged for that matter, but I do have 25 African cichlids in a 75-gallon fish tank. Thanks for taking my call. Great show.
Fish Sean Wu.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the coolest listeners in the world. 75-gallon fish tank.
Yeah.
That's
pretty big.
Yeah. I go swimming in it.
Might be a
With
little
all of his cichlids.
I think all the water would come out.
So the reason why it's a bad idea to name the trust the beneficiary of a retirement account is because most people do not have the appropriate trust set up.
Sure.
And secondly, now with the elimination of the stretch IRA, it doesn't really protect the monies, because everything has to be distributed out in 10 years. So a few things. Here's the rules. If you name a trust a beneficiary of a retirement account, there's basically a few things that have to happen. Because a trust is an entity, it doesn't have life expectancy. So let's say that Fish Sean Wu names his children or grandchildren or nephews, nieces, friends, or whatever. They have to be identifiable. They have to be people as the beneficiary. But he also has, maybe 5% of the beneficiary of his trust to, the African, Fish Society.
So, yeah, that could be. So that messes it up.
It messes it up because every beneficiary needs to be identifiable. And prior to the Secure Act that eliminated the stretch IRA, you could stretch out the life expectancy or you could stretch the tax out of a retirement account over the life expectancy of the beneficiary. And, people would set up subset trusts because they would take the life expectancy of the oldest beneficiary and then they would go into smaller trust and things like that. The Supreme Court a few years ago also identified retirement accounts that are a beneficiary account would be subject to bankruptcy and things like that because it wasn't it was the deceased's property. It's not the beneficiary's property. So people would want to set up a trust there to protect it against certain creditors and things like that. So if you set up a trust appropriately, it made a lot of sense. But it had to be a see-through or look-through trust. So it'd have to look through the trust itself and look at the beneficiaries and identify, the people that are the beneficiaries of the trust.
So to recap, all beneficiaries need to be people. Otherwise, it screws this whole thing up.
Correct. Second is that it's got to be a legal document, no big deal. Third is that there's a delivery requirement. So the trust documents need to go to your custodian, such as like Fidelity or Vanguard, TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab. And so there's issues there because it's an entity. It's not a person. So before you would just name a person and the stretch IRA would automatically happen and sounds, everything would be fine. The trust would kind of blow up the stretch. Now, with the elimination of the stretch, so people are naming trusts. So then I could get really in the weeds here, depending on if it's a discretionary trust, if you're going to hold cash in trust or not. The short answer is here, Fish Sean Wu, is that if you want to control the money from the grave, then you would want to set up a trust. So you don't trust your beneficiaries. You're like, all right, Big Al, you're my beneficiary. I don't trust you with the money.
Yeah, I'm going to spend it all in the first year.
Correct. So I'm going to hold it in trust, and I'm going to just give you a couple of bucks each year.
Right.
So that's the only reason why you would want to set up a trust today to hold that. But the problem with that strategy is that you're holding the money in trust and distributing it out, let's say, over 30 years. But because of the elimination of the stretch IRA, all of the money gets out of the retirement account within 10 years.
Right.
But it's still held in trust, and now you're going to be taxed at trust rates if you hold it in trust, which the top rate of 39.6 is somewhere of
It's
$11,000 of income.
Yeah, 37%, but
Yeah, 37.
But it hits 13,000 of income, so it's basically has higher tax rates, and in some ways you could say with the eliminating of the stretch, maybe it doesn't matter as much, but you hit the nail on the head on the nail, one of the two, is the trust tax rates. If you're going to hold these RMDs in the trust, they're going to be at a much higher tax rate.
So Fish Shan Wu, what I want you to do is that if you do not want to control the money from the grave, right, but you're naming the beneficiary, the trust, just to make it easier on your beneficiaries, it's not making it easier. Name people, name your spouse, name your kids, name your grandkids, and make that on the beneficiary form. If you want to control the money from the grave, that you don't trust your beneficiaries, that you want to distribute the money out, then it gets more complex. Write us back or give us another, a question and saying, hey, I don't trust my beneficiaries. Give me some options on what I can do to control the money after I'm gone that's sitting in a retirement account. Got to take a break. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth.
Are you prepared for retirement? Schedule a free financial assessment with an experienced financial professional right online at purefinancial.com.